Magandang umaga po. Hello and welcome to the September edition of the UP SLIS Webinar Wednesday series, organized by the UP School of Library and Information Studies. We welcome our viewers, students, and teachers of library and information science, and information professionals, and all our friends in the Philippines and around the world. I'm Paul Jason Perez, a faculty member of the UP SLIS, your host and moderator for today. Before we proceed, this webinar is in high definition or HD. For an optimal viewing experience, please check and adjust the settings of the live stream to HD. Right now, you may also check the audio and adjust the volume to a comfortable listening level. This webinar can be seen live on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, UP SLIS. We also have our official channel on Twitch TV, so you can watch this webinar at twitch.tv/UPSLIS. This webinar is still part of our hashtag Webinar Wednesday, which we have been offering since July last year. This year's webinar is also part of our celebration of the 60th anniversary of the UP SLIS. Before we proceed to our talk, allow me to explain the mechanics of this webinar. You may post your questions by going to Slido, that is www.slido.com, and typing in the code sublive or hashtag sublive. Again, that is slido.com with code sublive. We will not be entertaining questions posted in the chat or comment section of this video. Again, you may post your question by going to slido.com and typing in the code sublive. The website and code will also be shown on the screen throughout the talk. Alternatively, you could use the QR code also shown on the screen to go to the questions page. If in case you miss portions of this webinar, you may view this as a Facebook video or check our YouTube and Twitch channels. We will have yet another interesting and informative webinar this morning. I know you're all excited to meet our speaker, so allow me to introduce him to you. Mr. Benaventura B. Basco, or also known as Ven Basco, is a librarian at the University of Central Florida with the rank of University Librarian under the Research and Information Services Department. As the only engineering librarian serving the entire College of Engineering and Computer Science with an enrollment of over 13,000 undergraduate and graduate students, he handles library instruction, research consultations, and collection development. Ven has several interests in many aspects of librarianship, including STEM instruction, collaboration and outreach, international relations programs and initiatives, and diversity issues. Ven is also actively involved with many professional organizations such as the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association, or APLA, the International Relations Committee, International Relations Roundtable, and the Association of College and Research Libraries, or ACRL, Science and Technology Section. Ven has numerous publications and had presented in many conferences in the United States and around the world. In 2019, he received the Excellence in Librarianship Award from the University of Central Florida, just one of the many awards, grants, and honors he received throughout his career. Everyone, we're very lucky to have this morning Mr. Ven Basco. Hello, sir.
Hello, good morning sa inyo.
Good morning and good evening there in Florida. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's an honor to be invited. So I'm here, and I'd love to hear from everybody. Any questions, any comments, any suggestions? But definitely love to hear from all of you.
Sir, before we proceed to our lecture proper, kumusta po ba kayo diyan? Okay lang po ba kayo diyan sa Florida?
Yeah, we're good. The hurricane just passed by, and hindi naman kami affected. It was another state, the state of Louisiana. So complete destruction dong sa state at baha. But we're fine. Hindi kami affected dito.
That's very good to hear. I heard you already started with the semester in the university. Can you tell us how was it? Is it
Okay,
medyo
so
hectic na?
The semester started last week, so Monday last week, the 23rd, and so that's maraming excited na students dahil this is the first time the campus is completely open to everyone. Everything that used to be on remote instruction is now going to class in person. And so like the very first day of school, parang palengke, because everybody's just so excited. You've seen people everywhere. All the all the organizations were putting out tables, meeting everyone. But half the people are wearing masks, half not. But all the faculty and staff are, for the most part, nakamask sila. So there is no mask mandates for the state of Florida. That's why we are encouraged to wear ours, but not mandated to wear it every day.
I see. Well, I can definitely understand the excitement, no, because of what happened in the past few years. But then again, we wish everyone safety. And again, Sir Ven, thank you so much for preparing this lecture. For our audience, Sir Ven Basco prepared a recorded lecture for about his journey on becoming a subject librarian, but he will be staying with us to answer your live questions. So again, salamat ulit, Sir Ven. And for our audience, let us hear Sir Ven Basco's journey to becoming a subject librarian.
Thank
Hello, kumusta na po kayo? It is an honor to be invited kaya gusto pong pasalamatan si Dean Cato Bill for inviting me to be your Webinar Wednesday speaker for the month of September. She asked me to share with you my experience on how I became a librarian with an engineering degree. But before I get started, I just want to introduce myself to you. My name is Buenaventura Basco, medyo common in the Philippines but not in the US. So everyone called me Buen growing up, but it's hard for most Americans to pronounce it correctly. So I made it simpler and changed it to Ven instead. I will share with you a PowerPoint presentation of how I became a librarian since finishing my undergraduate degree and to getting my graduate degrees and eventually share my experiences as a librarian. I will be available to answer your questions during the live Q&A portion on Wednesday, September 1st, 9 a.m. Manila time, or 9 p.m. Tuesday, my time. So let's begin. The cover of my presentation says Journey. Now, was becoming a librarian part of my career plan in the beginning? It was not, but circumstances made me decide to become one. So here's a timeline of my education and the beginning of my professional career. Let's start with my undergraduate degree. I received my BS in Industrial Management Engineering with a minor in Mechanical Engineering in December of 1982. I was part of the Eng Batch 83, expected to graduate during the second semester of 1983. However, my university transitioned from semester to trimester system, so I got done early by a few months. Now, when I went to the US, I decided to get my MBA because of some similarities in the courses I've taken during my undergraduate degree. I started in 1985 and finished in 1989. Now, while working as a staff in my university, I was encouraged by my supervisor to pursue my master's in library science. Now, as a full-time paraprofessional staff, we are allowed to take 2 courses per semester, free from any of the state universities in Florida. So I took on the challenge since I am already getting my experience as a professional staff. Then I completed my master in library science degree in 1985. I decided that since a master's degree is the terminal degree for librarians in the US, that would be the end of my education unless I pursue a doctorate degree in education or a library science degree to further my career or become a professor. And that is something that I haven't made a decision yet. Now, moving on to my career. I almost started immediately in 1983 as a management assistant for a small food service management firm, providing breakfast, lunch, and afternoon snacks on several offices and schools in Metro Manila. But that was short-lived. I only worked for them for 2 months. I saw an opportunity to find employment in a big international company, working as a member of the sales department. I see that as a step to learn more about how a big company operates, with the possibility in moving up in ranks. Although working in sales, I find it much easier to understand the technical aspects of the product we are selling because of my engineering degree. And that company is Sime Darby, a conglomerate company based in Malaysia, and they manufacture the BF Goodrich tires in the Philippines. Again, my stay there was also short. I only worked there for 2 years, so I never had the opportunity to work or pursue additional positions in the manufacturing plant. As soon as I quit Sime Darby, I moved to the US and pursued my master in business administration. Finding a job with a master's degree was difficult because most companies look at both your work experience and educational background. I have been told that I was overqualified, having the engineering and a master's degree for an entry-level position, but underqualified for lower management positions because of limited work experience. So I had to work on all types of jobs, from related to not so related to my degrees. I worked in a hotel as a front desk and reservation staff. I also worked as a sales staff in an athletic store. Now, one of the jobs I'd enjoyed was becoming an accounting staff for a big retail store, balancing and reconciling assets of multiple stores in the East Coast and in Puerto Rico. I also decided that working as a library staff at the university provided the best benefit, including vacation, sick leave, health insurance, and retirement. So I stayed until I completed my master in library science. Now, my first job was working as a reference librarian for the Palm Beach County Library System. It is a big public library system, and I work in a regional branch serving several municipalities. I was hired as a reference librarian. It was a completely different experience since we served all types of patrons. Since I was in the adult reference section, I didn't have to do any children's programming. My job is to provide assistance to high school and college students with their research, or assist older patrons with book recommendations to read, or using resources for their business venture. However, my passion was really to work for academic libraries. So after 3 years, I decided to start applying for any academic librarian position in the state of Florida. Even though I was even considered to be promoted as a branch manager to one of the system, I decided that uh, being an academic librarian is my passion. Then I finally landed a position as a reference librarian with the rank of instructor at my current library. Then I was promoted to assistant university librarian in 2000, to associate university librarian in 2005. I was not planning to go up to the highest rank, but my previous supervisor encouraged me to apply for promotions, which I was lucky enough to get promoted to university librarian this year. So this slide provides the criteria to go up in ranks. There are two of them: your job and scholarship and professional development. The second portion is about scholarships, which includes all articles, books, or book chapters you've written, all the presentations you did in the library, within the university, or during professional conferences. It also includes memberships and positions in various local, regional, national, and international organizations. So currently, we only have 3 ranks right now: assistant, associate, and university. The higher you go up, the higher the expectations from you. The promotion committee, librarians who are above the rank you're applying for, vote for your dossier before they can go forward to the director, or now dean, since the library is now an academic unit. Once your promotion leaves the library, it goes to the provost through faculty excellence, and they make the final decision whether they approve your promotion or not. So how did I become a librarian? Before the subject librarian model was introduced, I was initially hired as a reference librarian, and I provided library instruction to all general education courses. I was also the library liaison to the College of Engineering and Computer Science, with collection development responsibilities to some departments, except computer science and electrical and computer engineering. Then I became the library liaison to the College of Business Administration when the librarian doing this job found a job in another institution. I was doing collection development for marketing, finance, economic departments, including library instruction. Now, after we hired her replacement, I became the library liaison again to the College of Engineering and Computer Science, but this time with collection development responsibilities to all the departments, and I do all library instruction to the whole college, and including providing research consultations to all engineering students. Now, in 2013, after we hired a new department head, she reorganized the department and renamed it to Research and Information Services Department. She came from another institution where they have a subject librarian model. Because of the changing landscape of higher education and the resulting changes in library collections and services, subject librarians became the forefront of interacting with faculty, students, and researchers, and their roles have been changing and will remain in a state of continuous change. With the subject librarian model, every student and faculty member had a one-stop librarian to support all library-related facets of their teaching, learning, and research activities. Each of us were assigned a particular department or departments, or the entire college based on our subject expertise, credentials, and experience. We were also asked to take over outreach, instruction, research consultations, and collection development for our assigned areas. Because of that, there was a reduction in the number of hours we were scheduled at the Research and Information Services desk, or sometimes virtual library or through chat or IM, from 10 to 16 hours a week down to 4 hours on the desk. Now, to accomplish this, we went through a series of trainings on curriculum mapping and curriculum integrated instruction, in profiling academic programs and faculty to find which courses have research components, or what type of research are our faculty working on. We also have to share our outreach strategies, since some librarians may be doing something already great and others can try it. Additionally, we started partnering other departments in the library, like the Office of Scholarly Communication or the Collection Development Department, to provide series of trainings on topics such as open access, copyright, and collection development activities. With a new model comes with a higher expectations. We were expected to have a higher level of sustained high-quality interactions with academic departments, faculty, and students. To do that, We have to develop a strong partnership with our faculty in order to enhance collection building, teaching, learning, research, and grant proposals, the development of research assignments for students, and interdisciplinary projects. And so the yearly evaluation has also changed. Prior to the new model, most of the evaluation are subjective. The evaluation was based on what we listed and submitted on our annual accomplishment report. With the new model, there is a defined assignment percentage for all of these areas: outreach, engagement, instruction, collection development, scholarship, and service. So to give you an example of those activities, we have to work closely with undergraduate, graduate program coordinators, department chairs, and library representatives. If invited, we should participate in our assigned college and department meetings. We should always inform our constituencies about library resources and services as many times as possible via newsletters, email, social media postings, or create subject-specific videos. We also have to promote our one-on-one research consultations to students and faculty during orientation, during instruction sessions, and while on the reference desk or on chat. We created online research guides, both general and course-specific or a basic library research skills web course. Lots of courses like subject-specific graduate research essential workshops or citation management tools, library reviews, to name a few. We participated in our assigned college graduate orientation and work with uh, particular academic programs to create detailed subject specific online tutorials and videos. Before the textbook sorry, affordability librarian was hired, we identified availability of textbooks, mostly ebooks, for courses offered and notified the faculty prior to the start of the semester so that the students are aware of it and be able to save money from purchasing a copy. While we work independently, we also are expected to collaborate or form partnership with other librarians in the library or even from other librarians from other institutions. Some of the collaborations that our librarians did include the Science and the Education librarian partnered to consult with the chemistry faculty who needed assistance in writing a chemistry education grant proposal. Another example is the Science and Scholarly Communication librarians collaborated to provide a workshop in assisting STEM faculty and graduate students in identifying the most promising journals in which to publish their research. Now, the Science librarian and I collaborated on a citation metrics workshop that taught our STEM faculty and graduate students how to measure their research impact. Now, 4 of us received a grant to host 4 different programs under a project we named Libraries Bridging the Gap Between Innovation and Entrepreneurship. The intent is to encourage entrepreneurial activities within the university by fostering an educational environment that informs, supports, and inspires students. We invited a panel of UCF alumni who have successfully started their own business from various industries. Another session is on patents, trademarks, and copyright tools for entrepreneurial success. Also support for student entrepreneurs from various local and government organizations. And the last one is on competitive intelligence. More recently, the Science librarian and I collaborated to introduce data management workshops at UCF. Now, with the help of the other subject librarians, we introduced our own version of STEM Bootcamp that led to a much bigger partnership with other campus units, thus creating a foundation of data management workshop series focusing on data sources, managing data, and maximizing the impact of your data. We also partnered with the UCF Honors College to assist students in the program with their undergraduate thesis. We conducted library orientations and workshops for students enrolled in Summer Research Academy, the Learning Environment and Academic Research Network, and the Introduction to Research and Creative Scholarship Opportunities program, which is a semester-long immersive classroom experience. We also offered subject librarian instructions and research guides to faculty who teach their research-intensive courses and require students to use primary resources for their research. Because the university is growing, we currently have a student population close to 70,000 students. New degree programs or certificates are always introduced, so we have to write individual reports or collaborated to write library collection analysis for new interdisciplinary programs. Some examples include the PhD program in Sustainable Coastal Systems, where 6 librarians with subject assignment in biology, public administration, interdisciplinary studies, sociology, engineering, and hospitality management provided input in creating the report. The Master of Science degree in FinTech involved input from 2 subject librarians, one for computer science, which is me, and finance for the other. Another example is the bachelor's degree in data science required input from 2 subject librarians, the subject librarian and me again as the engineering librarian. Lastly, on the side of professional development, we are encouraged to attend or present on specific or discipline-specific professional association conferences, such as the American Society for Engineering Education, SPIE Photonics West, STEM Librarians Conference, STELLA, which is the Science, Technology, and Engineering Library Leaders in Action, that I have attended and presented. And for others, we have the American Physical Society Conference, the Medical Library Association Conference, the Higher Education Alliance Conference, HASTAC, which is the Humanities, Arts, Science, and Technology Alliance and Collaboratory, in addition to, of course, the state and national conferences. So where do you find this job openings? So if you're looking for a job in the US, there are plenty out there. So here's an example. One from Penn State University looking for an engineering instruction librarian, and another from Texas A&M for a science and engineering librarian. Another job opportunity from the University of New Hampshire. They were looking for an engineering and physical sciences librarian. Now, this is a tenure track faculty position with a minimum annual salary of almost $80,000. Brown University has an opening for an engineering and physical sciences librarian, and Queen's University Library in Canada is also looking for engineering and sciences librarian. So there are more, and those are just some positions in my area. There would be positions for business, for education, social sciences, and so on. In fact, currently we are interviewing for a social science librarian after one of our librarians retired. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any question, I will answer them for you during the live Q&A session on September 1st at 9 a.m. Manila time. So see you then. Again, thank you for inviting me to your monthly webinar. Bye.
Thank you so much, Sir Ven. And as a matter of fact, there are already questions waiting for you. So I'm sure our audience learned a lot today and have some questions later that we'll be addressing. For those of you who've just tuned in, this is our UP SLIS webinar series organized by the UP School of Library and Information Studies. To our audience, if you have any questions for our speaker, you can go to slido.com and type in the code SUBLIB. That is SUBLIB. You could also use the QR code shown on the screen to go to our questions page. Please check the previously posted questions and upvote questions you would like to be prioritized. You can also comment on the questions if you have similar stories or experiences. Right now, let me give some important announcements. We would like to thank those who have already purchased the UP SLIS Coffee Table book. For those of you who have no copies yet, you can pre-order for our next print run by going to bit.ly/SLISCTB. For those of you who have fond memories of UP SLIS or ILS or ILIS, we also want to know your best, funniest, weirdest, oddest, scariest, sappiest memories in SLIS through a project called #IRemember. So if you have something that you want to share, please go to iremember.upslis.info. You might also want to check out our 60th anniversary online exhibition at 60.upslis.info. And also, to ensure that every BLIS student is equipped with the required tools or gadgets for remote learning, the Kaagapay project for UP-SLIS students of the UP Library Science Alumni Association or the UP-LSAA is still ongoing. This is in support of the program of the UP system, Kaagapay sa pag-aaral ng mga scholar ng bayan. You may donate in cash or in kind to help our BLIS students who may be struggling with remote learning. You may send your inquiries to uplsaa.inc@gmail.com. And finally, UP-SLIS is still accepting donations for the construction and renovation of our new SLIS building. Here's your opportunity to contribute to the UP-SLIS and LS education in the country. For your donations or other inquiries, you may contact us via email at admin@slis.upd.edu.ph. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Twitch TV, and like our Facebook page, UP-SLIS. That's UP-SLIS on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Shout out also to our viewers. Most of them are our colleagues from Metro Manila and Laguna. Hello po. Magandang umaga. Maraming salamat for joining us this morning. Okay. So, Sir Ven, a lot of our viewers are watching and some of them send their questions. And let me start with this first question. The question is, how much of your engineering background were you able to use in your work as a subject librarian?
I would say a lot. The dealing with a college, basically, it's more like understanding exactly what they do, what they learn. So in terms of like collection development first, so you having that background in engineering, you're able to identify the kind of books that the students are using, that the faculty are using for their research. And so it's much easier to find out what books are out there from different publishers in terms of the different subject areas in engineering. Now, in terms of instruction, it's much easier to relate to other engineering students, especially when they have questions about, the kind of projects they're working on. Most of the instructions that I do are usually from grad students or sometimes the upper level undergraduate students. And those are the ones that usually have research components in their class. And so if they're doing a paper or they're working on their dissertation or their master's thesis, it's easy to assist them with like what kind of databases are out there that will be useful to them, instead of just simply using Google Scholar for, I mean, there are a lot of students still using Google Scholar for the most part, but because we subscribe to several, engineering databases, understanding them is much easier for me to kind of go over the functionalities, the intricacies of searching those databases. And so it's easier to understand the terms that they're looking for, looking for the synonyms, looking for the source on the kind of like research that they're working on. And also it really helps you with looking for a job, you know, um, because of the specialty that you have as far as the kind of undergraduate degree. It doesn't, if it's an engineering engineering job opening, then it's easier to find, to find, to apply for that position. People usually, the search committee would usually look for people with a background, and usually they specify it with the required, or sometimes what's the preferred qualifications.
Mhm.
Seeing somebody with the kind of degree that they're looking for is much easier to move forward to the next step. Whereas, somebody with a music major and looking for an engineering degree, they will, and unless that person has some work experience, or already has been working as an engineering librarian, then that's the only time you'll probably get moved to the next level. Just like with a business librarian, most of the time, unless you already have the business degree or some kind of a related kind of job, then that's much easier for you to get hired. And as far as instruction, like I said, it's almost similar to research consultation. When you provide an instruction to a whole class of engineering students, you make sure that they understand you, they know where you're coming from. And so the kind of examples that you're using are not like simple, like adoption. Those are the things that they don't do that kind of papers anymore in engineering. So you have to know what they're looking for, and then not, also knowing how to limit your results, uh, uh, what kind of combination of terms, by understanding exactly the different terms, the different databases, the kind of questions that they pose to you. It's much easier to deal with you know those questions that you get from the students. And then it also helps with dealing with the faculty,
Mhm.
because we are considered faculty as well, and
Mhm.
so they will treat you as colleagues, because MLS is a terminal degree for librarians in the US. So, and that's what they'll get, is somebody with a master's in library science with sort of like specialization in the field that
Mhm.
you're in. So,
Yeah.
you know, having a business degree also helped me with being the liaison to the College of Business at one point when the business librarian, moved to another institution. And I was in her place for the time being when we were looking for someone to replace her. So,
I see.
but we do have lots of librarians with different backgrounds. And so an education, somebody with education will, probably, or a social science librarian, with anybody with anthropology or a sociology undergraduate degree would really, you know, would do well in those kind of jobs.
I see. Thank you, sir. So it's really advantageous, having this another background aside from MLIS, or that's actually the how most MLIS or librarians in the US are. I'm just curious, sir. How do you, in terms of professional development? So it seems like you have to be at pace with the developments in the library, but also in the engineering field. So how do you keep up with all these developments in terms of professional development?
Okay, so in addition to ALA and the State Library Association, there are academic organizations related to your field. So in my case, there is ASEE, the Association American Society for Engineering Education. And so there is a division there for Engineering Libraries Division where I am a member. And so they have a separate conference. And so you can present there, you can attend the conference. And you get to meet all the other engineering librarians in the country or the rest of the world. So that's one. And also depends on your passion. It doesn't have to be just specific to your discipline. You could, like in my case, I'm also interested in Asian Pacific American librarianship, and same thing with international librarianship. And so I joined those organizations as well. So, and then there's, of course, there's in education, there's EDUCAUSE. In business, there's SLA. And so there are those individual specialized type of conferences that you can attend, just like a medical librarian can attend American Medical Association conference. So those are in addition to, attending your ALA or your state or regional conferences.
I see.
And it
So
really
aside
helps
from
also because it helps with knowing other librarians in the field. It's much easier. You belong to a listserv, you belong to a group, and so any questions that you have, you post that question to a listserv or to an email group, and then you get a response, a good response, exactly what you're looking for. So.
I see. Thank you so much, Sir Ven. There's also some questions here. Actually, some of them are related, so I'll just read them out to you. The question is, what are the challenges encountered upon adapting the new subject librarian model, the advantages and disadvantage? And in relation to that, can you please explain more about the one-stop role of the subject librarians? I think you mentioned this in your presentation. How were you able to adapt from being from the reference section, and then you have to do all of the different roles of being a subject librarian? How was it?
Uh, it, I won't say it's really difficult. It's just having the time to do all the other stuff that's required. So there is a model that that my former supervisor used in terms of trends changing from the basic reference librarian model to a subject librarian model. So we do have a lot of trainings. We invited lots of speakers. We did a lot of workshops. So it's just learning from everyone. And then with having so many different speakers that can talk about you know programming, about doing like I said in the video, you have to go curricular mapping. So things that you won't normally do as a regular librarian, because as a regular librarian, you just basically liaison to the department. You take their orders, you go do instruction if you have to. But with this new subject librarian, you are more proactive, more than ever. And so you have to do all those things. I mean, you don't have to do all of them at once, but you have to show improvement. You need to show that you are doing some of these things that are expected from you. And so, and one of the things that we have to give up was basically being on the desk. So some people work from 10 to 15 hours a week on the desk, but then with the new model, they usually dropped it from like 4 to 6. That's the most we could be on the desk, because we have to focus on more outreach, more instructions, more collection development, all the other stuff that's expected from being a subject librarian. And so in terms of a one-stop, like I said, it's good to be, if you're already a liaison to the college or to a department, to a school or something like that. So you already have your connection ahead of time, but you're going to go beyond your typical, okay, I have $2,000 to spend on books, give me your books. Now you have to know more about, the publishing industry. You also have to know more about, a little bit more of publishing in there. You have to find some you need to collaborate with other librarians in your field, so that, you're exposing yourself not just to your institution, but to other institutions as well, to other people in the profession as well. So
Mhm.
I
I
hope I
see.
answer your question.
Yeah. Actually, there are more questions related to that. I believe one of our viewers, uh, in in their academic library, they recently implemented this subject librarian system. Sabi niya, we only just started. What would you recommend as best practices for new subject librarians? Do you have any advice for them?
Best practices, it really depends on your institution, depending on the expectations that they have for you. Uh, if you want to know more about what your role is or what you can do as a subject librarian, I would encourage that you join sort of like a listserv, because everybody from, let's say, a business listserv, an engineering listserv, or any other listservs in your discipline, because you can always ask questions from your colleagues. it's easier to ask a question and say, okay, I have this thing. Well, how do you want me to, how would you do this, as a subject librarian? And of course, one thing that I will, do not reinvent the wheel.
Mm.
If if you want to know more about, let's say, what an engineering or what a business or what a social science librarian does, they usually create a guide. It's on the web. It's free for everybody. Go to a live guide or live guide, however you want to call it, because everybody usually, put all kinds of information there, and it's free to share. There are those information that are specific to the institution, like, subscription to databases, but there are other information that would really help you do well in your profession. So you will know more about what standards are being used, what associations are available, what databases are good in that, where are there any OERs, because especially now, everybody's looking for OER in your specific discipline, that there are collections of OER materials out there. And so just, don't reinvent the wheel, ask questions, find somebody who can help you. And reaching out to a librarian from another institution, especially if they have something, they created a video, or they created a guide or something like that, and you have some questions, ask for them and learn new things, because eventually, with your new job, there may be some additional requirements that you need to do. I know that there is no time to learn everything. It's like, I want to know more, but I want to learn Python or R, or that kind of stuff. But do you have the time? You have to prioritize what you can do as far as your current job, and look at it in terms of how you are being evaluated. Am I being evaluated based on these other things that I want to do or not? But so put everything on the side for those that you may want to consider later on, but focus a lot on what you're being evaluated, because that's how you're being employed, how you keep being employed. So just doing a great job.
I see. Thank you, sir. So yeah, having this specific community is really important. So it's, again, to our viewer, if you have just become a subject librarian, look for listservs or communities that can help you with this specific subject. Sir Ven, there's another question here. Um, how much teaching? Do you have a teaching role? You mentioned that you are considered as a faculty, but do you have a teaching role in your institution?
Not the librarians. We have a percentage that we do for library instruction. And so that's part of your job, is basically to, when we do curricular mapping, you look for classes in the undergraduate or graduate programs that you have, and look for, based on the description, is there a research component for that class? And if there is one, you know, reach out to the faculty, whoever is currently teaching or will teach in the next semester, and ask them that you're available, that you can provide, even if you can be there for 15 minutes, or, sometimes they want you to stay the whole, 1 hour, sometimes an hour and a half, but there's only so much that you can talk about, because most of the time it's so general that you may want to have your students come and see you for a consultation, because most of the time, if they have projects, at least you can focus on what they're looking for. So the instruction is there, and nowadays it's everybody's so big in statistics, in numbers, in feedbacks, and so that's why we have to look for those, or we have to seek for those classes that might have. I mean, as a subject librarian, we don't do English classes anymore, the Comp 1 or the reading courses. That's somebody else's job to do instruction for those. What we're basically doing are those specialized instructions that are related to our field. And so I reach out to faculty, and one thing good about it is that it's, once you establish that relationship with the faculty, you will be asked every semester, or if it's offered once a year, expect an email from the same faculty to come to visit the class and provide instruction and do all that stuff. And so they're not going to forget you, so they'll remember who you are.
So you're very very much involved with the college that you're supporting. I even saw from your website that there's a functionality where they can reserve you on your
Yes.
profile. So
In my
that's
profile,
very good.
yeah, we had to because we're open. We have to be available, and you don't have to be available, every hour. In my profile, there are a set of time that we put out every week that
Mhm.
you can book me, and once you click on that time, then you're it. I'm notified that someone made a reservation to have a consultation with me. Now, not all the time that those hours work for the student, so then they can email me for that matter, and then they just inquire about possibly meeting with me at I am if I'm available at this time, this date. So I usually give them options. They ask them to give me options as far as when they can, you know, when they're available. And if I'm available, then I can email back and say, okay, well, let's meet this one. And I send you the Zoom invitation because even right now, even though the students are all back in school, all of them still wants a Zoom consultation. So we try not to provide that in person because you don't want to be sitting next to them. So a Zoom consultation is the same thing as just showing whatever you have on your screen. So at least I'm available. So
Yep.
and and I'm being evaluated based on that also, because
Mm,
we provide that as statistics, and then we also have to ask or solicit for feedback from the student how well we did. So if there's any room for improvement, then at least we'll know, and those get reported to my supervisor. So,
I
so
see.
a bad
Thank
feedback is also, we receive those also. So,
thank you, Sir Ben. Moving on, we have a question here from Eugene. Hi, Eugene. He's watching right now. That he asked about the uh, actually this is like a recurring question. There's another question similar to this one. He said that the educational background for LS professionals in the Philippines is more of LIS, unlike in the United States, wherein library professionals have an undergraduate background that is different, like science, engineering, or humanities. How can an LAS professional coming from the Philippines will have any edge for any job opening in the United States? Let me also read a similar question. The question is, I only have a BLIS, but I have worked for more than 5 years as an academic librarian in a big university. How can I apply as an academic librarian in the US? Maybe you can talk about how we can, if someone is interested to work as a librarian in the United States and they only have a BLIS, a bachelor's of LS, how can they transition to becoming a librarian in the United States?
okay, like I said in my video, uh, all academic institutions in the U.S. requires a master's in library science. And in addition to getting the master's, it has to be from an ALA accredited institution. And so anybody, even if you get your master's from, let's say, Singapore or wherever, some of the Asian countries, as long as it's not accredited by American Library Association, then you will not be considered. I know that I know of several from Australia who had to go and retake some courses. Not necessarily taking all the courses, but they have to go back to school, and you can do that online. You can do all those things. But they just want to make sure that your master's degree is from US, from an ALA accredited institution. And most of those are usually in Canada and the United States. So I know that at one point, an somebody, or Puerto Rico is also, because it's a territory. But even if you're from let's say Mexico, which is just a neighboring country, an MLIS from there is still not accepted. And so now that is for academic libraries. That doesn't mean, and I know that also in our institution we have people who had master's degree from another country, but instead of working as a librarian, they usually end up as a paraprofessional, working as in circulation or technical services. That way, the that background that they have, even though it's almost the same exact thing that you're doing, uh, that's the easiest way for you to be hired in in a university, but not as an academic librarian. And so, and then there are only very few schools in the US that offers a BS in LIS because they know that it's not going to lead you to a job as an academic librarian. Now,
Mhm.
there are public libraries that will hire, you know, I will hire someone with a BS uh, in library science or for any other degrees, and those usually are from, are usually public libraries, but not academic libraries because of the accreditation plays an important role in some of these libraries, and so you need to have at least uh, you have to show some proof that the librarians are working in your institution have the masters in an ALA accredited institution. And so, but the opportunities are there for paraprofessionals. And then, some institutions usually like what I have, you're allowed to take some courses. If you want to get your master's, then some schools would offer it. Some institutions would offer it, and then so you finish, and at least having that degree. And it doesn't matter whether you have a science or engineering. If you have a music or a humanities or a commerce degree, those really plays an important role later when if you want to become a librarian, a subject librarian. But if you just want to become a librarian in general, then there are institutions that does not have the model of subject librarian model. They just want to hire someone with a master's degree. So
I
so
see.
so
And
the MLIS is really it's more like just to have it, but not necessarily help you in terms of getting a job. It's just because it's required. It's just a requirement.
yeah, currently it's a requirement for an entry position in academic librarianship or in general in the United
uh
States.
in the United States, it's a master's it's the basic, is the basic requirement. uh Academic libraries nowadays may require some experience already. So there's usually a minimum of, let's say, 2 academic library experience. People usually ask, how could I get the experience if nobody would hire me, right? And so sometimes you just basically have to go out there, find one, you know whether it's a public library or a law library or medical anywhere, as long as you get your experience as a librarian post MLS. And that's the most important thing. It's the post MLS experience that you have, not the pre MLS experience.
I see. Sir Ven, we have a viewer who asked this question. Do you think, in your opinion, is it more beneficial to have a pre-LIS course, like an undergrad from a different field, and then take an MLIS later on? Do you think that would be like an advantage?
uh, I would say most librarians that I know of does not have a BS in LIS.
Mhm.
Everybody usually has an English, they have a English major, and that would usually work as a humanities librarian. Or, so if you plan on becoming, let's say, a subject librarian, and you don't have to be a subject librarian, if you just want to work in an academic library, there are libraries out there that does not really require that you need to have that kind of a background or that kind of undergraduate degree. But if you really want to focus on, there are certain institutions, big institutions that really require some kind of background, undergraduate degree in, let's say, if someone's looking for a STEM librarian, having a biology or, a zoology or engineering or any of those really gives you the advantage in terms of like applying for a position, because they know that you have a better understanding of, what the students are doing. They're researching what the faculty is doing in terms of assisting with them. So that doesn't mean that the BLIS is not important. But like I said, I don't remember if there are any more schools in the US that offers the BS in library science.
Oh, I see. And for that viewer, the UPSLAS is accepting um undergraduate student or undergraduates from different fields. So regardless of your background, you can take an MLIS with the UPSLAS. Okay, we have another question here, Sir Ven. How do you feel about the recent trend and shift towards contractual or project-based jobs in GLAM, in galleries, libraries, archives, and museums? Is this also
Well,
happening in your institution?
uh, the bigger the university, the bigger the requirement is to have an archivist or somebody with that kind of experience or that kind of degree, because there is a program, there is a master's in archives and that kind of stuff, and so the tendency for them is usually to find a university that has a big special collections, that has special archives, that kind of stuff, or you can look at museums. But having that degree does not, it's not going to help you find a job as an academic librarian because the focus is a little different. And so I know that uh, being an archivist, having that degree in archives and museum and all that stuff, they it's a separate profession. They have their own organization, they have their own conference, and so but they do get paid also well in the US because that's your specialty. And so I know that we have a special collections department, special collections and archives, and so we have a department head and we have somebody working there as well. And so depending on how big the collection is, depending on how big the foundation is, there are some institutions that hire a lot of archivists because they have a big collection of materials coming in from the faculty, from coming in from within the university. And
And
so
are these roles usually like contractuals or project-based roles?
not that I know of. I mean, I know that we have two people in the university that belongs to the the Society for I forget the name of the organization, but they're like they're working on a permanent basis, and so I'm not sure. Maybe the contractual basis, uh, special types of museums usually
Mhm.
are probably the ones hiring uh, archivists in a contractual basis, but not academic libraries because they need those support to every year there's always something that they have to preserve all the works from their faculty. That's why they have the archives and special collections. You always get like the papers from the congressman or from the senator or from the former something, and so you have to keep building your collection. That's why you have those professionals doing that kind of job. So I really can speak for the contractual basis because I'm not aware of that situation.
Yeah, that's okay. W- there uh ang daming nagtanong no kanina, and now we're only down to a few question. Actually, we have one more. The question here is, hi Servant, not taking geography into account, but would you rather prefer have an individual unit libraries per major subject or college with distinct boundaries, or have a central library where there's shared workforce allocation and have assigned subject librarians or subject matter experts under single management? So would you rather have uh, individual unit
And
libraries per college or just have a central library?
I mean, preferably I would rather have a single unit. If they're let's say an engineering library for the college that is housed outside of the central library, that would be good because now at least you could build your collection. You can build your collection. You can provide more outreach. You could you're next to your office will be next to all the teaching faculty, so it's much easier to see them on a daily basis, and you can do a lot more. You can collaborate with not just library instruction, but some other projects as well, with grants and a lot more. But the realities in the US is that a lot of the individual libraries are shutting down and they're being integrated now with some other units. And so I know that um, right now we only have one central one, and when we have one a curriculum one
Mhm.
on the main campus. At one point there was a plan to have a separate library for engineering and computer science, but that did not materialize. And so some institutions now are actually giving up the building and combining their collection with another discipline. And so I think because because the availability of the interdisciplinary nature sometimes of the research of the faculty, and so they would rather have combined resources in one place.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there are still libraries out there. University of Michigan still has all the specialized buildings, but the collection is so small now compared to when you look at a big library with over 2 million resources that you have that you can use not just for your top for your area, but also maybe some additional areas that you can also assist with. And so and it's easier to collaborate with other librarians too. And in my presentation, you notice that in terms of collection development or in terms of new programs, with more and more interdisciplinary programs being offered, it's easier to collaborate with somebody who's already on the same building. When you create the proposals and all that stuff, or when you're working on let's say even for the new programs, when you have to buy materials, how much of those you want to focus on, let's say your field and this other field when you have a limited amount of money to spend. And so you can work easily as when you see each other physically instead of going from one building to another. And in some libraries, the buildings are far, sometimes you have to drive to get to the other building. And so having a centralized one is actually better. And it's good for collegiality. It's good to see all the other librarians in your field. I mean, and with the pandemic, of course, that's a little different. But before the pre-pandemic, you can basically talk to anybody that you see in your hallway, and that's part of just your job. And so, and it's easy to collaborate when you're there.
I see. Maraming salamat, Sir Ven. Actually, that's all of our questions. And thank you so much to our viewers who send in their questions. A lot of you are curious about the role of Sir Ven. Sir Ven, I have this question. When you were still an undergrad, did you have any idea that you will become a librarian?
Uh, like I said on the video, definitely not.
Yeah.
When I was in the library, when I was just a student, and I was working as a student assistant, because it's easier to find a job on campus, and so I was in the library. I noticed that the people working at the reference desk were just sitting there, talking, right? I didn't realize that. I said, well, that's all they do, and they get paid a lot of money just sitting there and talking. Well, nobody told me that there's a lot more involved than just simply being on the desk. And so, but because I was working already, I'm getting some experience in technical services and strict public services. And so, and plus that, they're letting us take 2 classes per semester. So why not, and so I decided to just go ahead and then get my degree, and it paid off. So
And 20 years later, now you're a university librarian. So
yeah.
congratulations,
Oh, thank you.
Sir Ven. Sir Ven, thank you so much for answering our viewers' questions. At this point of the program, we will now award the certificate of appreciation to our speaker. It is a digital certificate, and the certificate reads, the University of the Philippines School of Library and Information Studies presents the certificate of appreciation to Mr. Benaventura Ven Basco for delivering his valuable webinar entitled Becoming a Subject Librarian as part of the 2021 UP School of Library and Information Studies lecture series in celebration of its 60th anniversary, given this first day of September 2021 at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City. Signed, yours truly and Dean Mary Grace Golfo P. Barcelona. Again, Sir Ven, maraming salamat po. We wish you all the best in your endeavors. Sir Ben, is there anyone that you want to greet? Any friends that are watching right now?
I'm not sure who's watching. So I just want to say thank you again for inviting me. I mean, I know Kate started inviting me. We had our conversation through messenger about this and some additional things too. But hopefully, I once the pandemic is over, I wish I could go back to the Philippines and actually attend one of the conferences, attend Fly, or actually visit your campus, and then
Mhm.
just see everybody there. On top of that, also, but if you do have, because I don't know who's actually watching right now, I provided with my email and you know my contact information. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You know, I have my phone, and like most people working here, our job does not end at 5 o'clock. Our job is 24/7. So as long as that phone is available and then there's a message there, then I will respond to your questions or suggestions or comments or anything. So feel free. You don't have to be here. I could provide you with resources that you need.
Wow, that's very generous. Maraming salamat, Sir Ven. You can reach out to Sir Ven Basco. I believe it is provided dun sa kanyang slide in his profile. You can also reach out to him sa kanyang profile sa University of Central Florida. Sir Ven, maraming salamat po.
You're welcome. Yes, good to have be invited for the for this event.
Yes, we're looking forward to having you in the future in a physical face-to-face setting. So hopefully, no, in the future.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, thank you so much, Sir Ven. To all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you all had a meaningful takeaways from this webinar. Thank you too to our SLIS faculty for making this event possible. Special shout out to Professor Nathan Isip, Professor Mark Santos, and Professor Dadurado for managing the tech side of this event, and to Professor Johan Frederick Cabab and Mr. Dridge Paul Reyes for their work on the graphics and publicity materials, as well as the sound mixing for this webinar. To give feedback and to receive your certificates, please don't forget to register using the link that will be shown on the screen. Certificate issuance will only work for a month after this live stream, but you can leave an evaluation at any time. If you miss portions of this webinar, you may rewatch it as a Facebook video or check our YouTube channel and Twitch channel. For updates on our upcoming activities, please follow us at our official Facebook page, UPSLIS. Subscribe to our YouTube and Twitch channels. That's youtube.com/UPSLIS and twitch.tv/UPSLIS, or visit our website, slis.upd.edu.ph. You can also catch our online talk shows on YouTube. For the Record, Faculty Room, and the Student Produced Digital Scholarship Series, and the latest Coffee Break Reflections and Conversations. We have also recently launched a new series called Off the Record, a spin off of our For the Record series that discusses key concepts in archives and records management. Off the Record is student led series discussing key concepts, principles, and practices in archives and records management. The videos are produced by our students in the Bachelor of Library and Information Science program. Please watch out for a new episode that is coming out next week. If you like our videos on social media, please share and like our videos. Watch out for our next month's webinar offering on October 6th, 2 in the afternoon, with our guest, Bambi Eloriaga Amago, who will be talking about autism in comics. So that will be very interesting. That will be on October 6th at 2 p.m. And that wraps up our webinar Wednesday for August. Once again, this is Paul Jason Perez, your host and moderator, wishing you all the best. See you soon.